Waiting you out.
All right, I think we're ready. It is 7 o'clock. We can start the live stream now. I will now call to order the regular City Council meeting of January 11th, 2021. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this meeting is being held electronically, and members of council are participating remotely pursuant to the council's electronic participation policy. Public access to the meeting is available on the Local Government Access Channel 8 for Comcast and Xfinity subscribers and on the city's YouTube channel online. Public access is also available by telephone by utilizing the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda. All callers will be muted and may only comment during the times allotted for public comment as indicated on the agenda. If you're on the phone line waiting to speak to council and are also watching the meeting on YouTube or Channel 8, please know there are a couple seconds of delay with the live stream. Please turn down your computer or TV volume as we approach the sections of the agenda reserved for public invited to be heard, so you can hear the council meeting on the phone line and to prevent background noise when you are unmuted to speak. Those calling in and wishing to speak to council may text 303-450-8757 to sign up to provide public comment. Please note that you must connect to the City Council meeting by calling the separate call-in number listed on the agenda. If you prefer to not text your name to the clerk, please speak up and indicate your desire to provide public comment when prompted at the appropriate times. Once you have been recognized, state your name and address and provide your comments to council. Thank you for following these directions and for maintaining meeting decorum tonight. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Here.
Councilmember Witkovich.
Here.
Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Councilmember Downing.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Duran Malika.
Here.
Councilmember Escobar.
Here.
Thank you. Excellent. So I'm going to share my screen. If you would stand as you're able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Is there a flag? Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. City Manager Geyer, are there any responses to citizen inquiry?
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Okay. We are beginning tonight with a proclamation. We have the Martin Luther King Jr. Day proclamation. It is January 18th, 2021. We have a guest, Wesley Dunbar, member of our Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board. He's going to provide an introduction, and then we have a video before the proclamation. So, Mr. Dunbar, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's good to be with you. Thank you for this opportunity. In an effort to help our Northglenn neighbors celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board, or DICE as we've become known, wants to share portions of one of Dr. King's most famous messages. It was also his last. I've been to the mountaintop. In this masterful message, Dr. King demonstrates his intellectual capabilities, his oratory skills, his passionate delivery, and down-to-earth communication style. It is understandable that many Americans refer to mountaintop as a speech. To be sure, it was a speech, but it was more than that. To listen to a recording of I've Been to the Mountaintop now 52 plus years later I would encourage you to try to find that, is to be brought into an event, an historical moment, never to be duplicated. This is a sermon out of a tradition of preaching that is unlike any other. Dr. King sought to inspire and motivate those who gathered to support the sanitation workers of Memphis. He called citizens together in solidarity with 13,000 employees. What better setting to be the herald of unity for the sanitation workers of Memphis than a church, where Mason Temple was and is the regular gathering place for a Church of God in Christ congregation. For those not familiar, that's Black Pentecostal. So, of course, Dr. King, a Black Baptist preacher, was welcome in their pulpit. Given a pulpit to speak from, it would have been unthinkable for him to give a speech, as it were. Pulpits were for preaching sermons, and preaching is what Dr. King knew so very well. In a pulpit, the messenger stands as a herald. Oftentimes, they stand as if in a watchtower overlooking the affairs of the people in the community. And from that vantage point, the message may be a warning. Sometimes the messenger speaks words of comfort. But the benefit, as well as the burden of the pulpit, is to speak the truth. Speak truth to the lowly, the marginalized, and the oppressed, as well as to the powerful and the privileged. Speak truth in love, but speak the truth. Speak to the people of a higher calling, of a greater cause, of a new vision, but speak the truth. The truth Dr. King spoke on April 3rd, 1968 at Mason Temple was prophetic at a personal level, as well as for the community of Memphis. But even in our day, in 2021, we can hear relevant, inspiring, and motivating words of truth. Here we are in our own nation when we are in need of truth. Before there's unity and reconciliation and let's just move forward, we speak truth. We are a nation divided. The very fabric of our nation is being torn asunder. A violent coup attempt on the nation's capital, injustice and inequality run rampant, global health and economic crisis. We need a guiding light. We need words of truth and integrity. Dr. King provides such words. What follows are selections from I've Been to the Mountaintop. We of the Dice Board offer this in service to our community and celebration of our life together on this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. So I'm going to show the video now. Is that correct? I want to make sure I'm sharing the sound properly. Okay.
The world is all messed up. The nation is sick. Trouble is in the land. Confusion all around. But I know somehow that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. And I see God working in this period of the 20th century in a way that men, in some strange way, are responding. Something is happening in our world.
The masses of people are rising up, and whether they are in Johannesburg, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Accra, Ghana, New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, Jackson, Mississippi, or Memphis, Tennessee, the cry is always the same. We want to be free.
And another reason I'm happy to live in this period is that we have been forced to a point where we are going to have to grapple with the problems that men have been trying to grapple with through history. But the demands didn't force them to do it. Survival demands that we grapple with them.
Men for years now have been talking about war and peace, but now no longer can they just talk about it. It is no longer a choice between violence and nonviolence in this world. It's nonviolence or non-existent. That is where we are today.
And also in the human rights revolution, if something isn't done and done in a hurry to bring the colored peoples of the world out of their long years of poverty, their long years of hurt and neglect, the whole world is doomed.
Now I'm just happy that God has allowed me to live in this period to see what is unfolding. When people get caught up with that which is right and they are willing to sacrifice for it, there is no stopping point short of victory.
We've got to give ourselves to the struggle until the end. Nothing will be more tragic than to stop at this point. We've got to see it through. And when we have our march, you need to be there.
If it means leaving work, if it means leaving school, be there. Be concerned about your brother. You may not be on strike, but either we go up together or we go down together. Let us develop a kind of dangerous unselfishness.
Let us rise up tonight with a greater readiness. Let us stand with a greater determination. And let us move on in these powerful days, these days of challenge to make America what it ought to be.
We have an opportunity to make America a better nation. Whenever men and women straighten their backs up, they are going somewhere, because a man can't ride your back unless it is bent.
We've got some difficult days ahead, but it doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop, and I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land.
I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we, as a people, will get to the promised land. And I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
In the water, oh my goodness.
That was absolutely beautiful. I really hope we see that somewhere else. Can we post that? Like, how can we put that everywhere?
So I can answer that. So Kai, what she'll do, she's the one that helped the Dice Board put that compilation together. She will take the snippet from Wes that he introduced tonight and incorporate that into a social media video. And she'll post that on our social media pages, as well as Channel 8 and our YouTube page.
It was just so moving. I'm sure other council members would like to chime in. I'm going to give that some space before we read the proclamation.
You know, Meredith.
Councilmember Peterson.
Go.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the DICE committee for putting that together. It's one of my favorite speeches, and it was given the day before Dr. King was killed. And as you all know, he was in Memphis supporting sanitation workers in an economic strike with the slogan, "I am a man." And this is the second time coming to support. And he wasn't even the keynote that night. He wanted to go. Well, he was the keynote, but he didn't want to go. He wasn't feeling well. Ralph Abernathy indicated that the people need to hear you. And King impromptu went and gave that speech. And the idea that I may not get there with you, but I've been to the mountaintop. He was assassinated again the very next day in Memphis. And so it's one of my most favorite speeches in American history. It's inspiring on so many levels. And so you can take a look at the speech and its significance in itself. And Catherine, how you and the committee put that together, not just in the words of King, but in the words of our own residents and the own committee, it really indicates that the issues and the words and the values of past time are the values of all time. And I want to thank the committee for doing that. Very beautiful, very moving. Lovely.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Brown.
You know, I just wanted to say, as I was listening to it, how much it actually represents where we are right now as a nation and in a community. And the words were very, very right on. I mean, they're just as transparent today as they were when the speech was given. So I really do appreciate the diversity board for putting that together. It was a beautiful video. Thank you very much. I don't know. I'm sure everybody else is struggling what's happening in our nation's capital. And this just hit home for me. You know, if we could all just be a little nicer, you know, I really did enjoy that.
Councilmember Duran Malika.
Yeah, I also wanted to just thank everybody who participated in that video. That was just fantastic. And what a joy and a gem we have in this city to have this amazing group of people put something like that together for us. And, you know, we're very lucky to have these amazing people who care and to bring us such of a beautiful gift. So thank you. I just want to thank the entire committee and Catherine, you did a great job. You look great in that video. Congratulations, everybody. It was great. Thank you.
Councilmember Downing.
Yes, I just want to echo what has been said before. It was great. Thank you to the diversity board, and Catherine, you did a wonderful job. So all of you did a wonderful job. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Echoing some comments that we heard previously, just that this video that was put together by the DICE committee truly was moving. It was beautiful. It was thoughtful. And I just really appreciate it. And thank you, Catherine, for all of the work that you're doing with that committee in particular. And I hope we can all take some time to reflect on the words of Dr. King now and in the future, especially with the point that we are in this nation. Thank you.
Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure that everyone realizes that this is such an amazing group of people, that so many of them, you know, different people had taken the initiative at different points in the process of putting this together, that I just kind of like stepped back and let them do their thing. It was wonderful to watch. So it's a wonderful team of people to work with. And I want to thank all of them for the work that they have done, and also our city staff for in the communications department in particular for putting it all together to make it look as wonderful as it did. So, and thank you all here tonight for your kind words. Thank you.
Yes, it's absolutely amazing. And all virtually, I could tell. So we're getting really good at this, I think. I'm going to share my screen again so we can read the proclamation tonight. Here we go. Whereas on August 28th, 1963, on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. articulated the founding dream of America, that each of us are created equal, and challenged America to make freedom a reality for all. And whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. devoted his life to advancing equality, social justice, and opportunity for all, and challenged all Americans to participate in the never-ending work of building a more perfect union. And whereas Dr. King helped shape the civil rights movement, gave hope to millions experiencing discrimination, and inspired many to pursue a more just and equal society. And whereas millions of Americans have been inspired by the life and work of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to serve their neighbors and communities, and Dr. King's teachings can continue to guide and inspire us in addressing the challenges in our communities. And whereas racism and inequality persists in our society, and there have been numerous protests, marches, and rallies across the country calling for an end to institutional, structural, and systemic racism. And whereas on July 13th, 2020, the city of Northglenn passed resolution number 20-112, standing against racism and committing to create a community where all individuals are treated equitably, which must happen if we are to achieve Dr. King's dream of a society where people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And whereas the third Monday of each January is observed as Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and the city of Northglenn wishes to honor a great American who awakened a nation's conscience and continues to inspire us to reflect on the gains we have made and recommit ourselves to the work that remains as we strive for a more just society. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim January 18th, 2021 as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the City of Northglenn, and urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to pay tribute to the life and works of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and to recommit ourselves to Dr. King's dream by engaging in acts of service to others, to their community, and to our country. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 11th day of January, 2021. So thank you very much. And we have some additional guests of the DICE committee here with us today. I believe we have the chair, Autumn Romero, our vice chair, Sarah Woodson, and the secretary, Rayana Blackman. If any of you would like to say a few words, the floor is yours.
Hello. Nervous as the chair of the committee, but on behalf of the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board, we are all looking forward to working with City Council and the constituents of the City of Northglenn. We hope to provide a voice to those that have historically not had a platform. We want to be citizen politicians by engaging in deliberative dialogue with the community at large and hoping to provide sound feedback to legislation and policies that the City of Northglenn currently has and forms in the future.
Thank you for being here. Is any other member of the committee, do they want to say a few words? That's okay. Oh, hi.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I just was going to say this is an amazing feat for the city, and Autumn, you said it wonderfully, and Councilmember Goff too. Just this is such a special day to our communities of color, and it's so important that we continue to recognize the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and continue to strive for equality and justice for all. So thank you all.
Thank you for being here. Yes, I echo all of the sentiments shared. This committee is powerful, but also inspirational. So thank you to Dr. Goff for helping us lead it, and to all the members of that committee. Thank you for being here tonight. Okay, we are moving into public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Joanna, has anyone signed up to speak to council tonight?
We do have one individual, Mr. John Algie from the Northglenn Thornton Rotary Club, would like to speak to council. So I have unmuted John now, and he is ready to go.
Hi, John. How are you?
Good evening, Madam Mayor. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being here.
Yes, and before I start, Mayor Leidy, I want to offer you my continued prayers too for your recovery with COVID. So you are in our, so we hope you're doing better. So yes, I want to start off with that.
Thank you.
Yes, awesome. You're quite welcome. So, so good evening, Mayor Leidy, Mayor Pro Tem Wilford, members of council and staff. A happy new year to each and every one of you. And I hope all of you are staying safe and healthy during this trying time, but very hopeful year that we will have as we get vaccines on board. So with that being said, my name is John Algie. I reside at 4187 East 95th Drive in Thornton. I am the Sergeant at Arms and also the Food Drive Committee Chair with the Rotary Club of Northglenn Thornton. And in the spirit of Dr. King's legacy and community service, we are pleased to announce that we will be conducting our annual Easter food drive as planned this year. However, The 2021 version will look much different than our past food drives due to the continuing COVID-19 pandemic. Even with vaccinations now proceeding gradually, we are committed as a club to the safety and well-being of our neighbors. Thus, we have decided that our 2021 Easter food drive will be conducted virtually. We will be accepting monetary donations only. We will be collecting through Friday, March 26, 2021. We are honored to continue our partnerships with the following food pantries in the city of Northglenn, Good Shepherd Presbyterian Church and Immaculate Heart of Mary Food Bank, and in the city of Thornton Community Food Bank, and Food for Hope. All collected monies will be split equally amongst the above pantries. And our webpage this is how we'll be collecting our donations, is www.northglennthorntonrotary.org. I did send Clerk Small a transcript of my comments this evening, so the webpage is annotated on that. And when you do get to the webpage, you can click on the cart link at the top. There's also an article about the food drive if you scroll down the webpage. So we thank everybody for your donations in the past and hopefully in the future, and for helping us give back to our communities. And in closing, also, you mentioned Sarah Woodson. Sarah happens to be one of our newest club members. We are honored to have Sarah in our club, and she does work, of course, for Be Good. And I am honored to be working with Sarah. She is on our food drive committee, and hope to work with her not just in Rotary, but in off-Rotary ventures during the course of 2021 and beyond. So truly blessed to have her on that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Well, anytime, Madam Mayor. Thank you for everything, and stay well.
Thank you. You too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Joanna, was there anyone else?
There's nobody else signed up to speak, and I didn't receive any comments in writing prior to the meeting. But we might just pause for a minute to see if there's anybody on the phone line who might want to provide public comment.
Okay. All right, hearing none, we will move to the next item. We are moving into communications. I'm going to go ahead and begin with Mayor Pro Tem Wilford.
Good evening, everyone. I have a number of updates today. First, I'll start with two upcoming meetings. So the first is the Colorado Communities for Climate Action Policy Committee. We will be meeting on Thursday. And I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that we will, I believe, be discussing, or at least starting a conversation about carbon cap and trade, which is not something that's currently included in our policy statement. So I have given the legislative committee a heads up that in the event that CC4CA wants to take a position or engage, that I'll be bringing that issue forward to the committee for conversation and a decision about where the city of Northglenn, where we will basically fall on a position there. So again, just a heads up. Secondly, the Colorado Municipal League Policy Committee will be also meeting on Friday. So it's a big week for our policy committee meetings. And one bill of note that's pretty exciting is that it sounds like State Representative Brianna Titone is considering a grant program that local governments could potentially apply for funding to help cover the cost of turf replacement programs. You all may remember that we approved a program, I believe 2 years ago, that provides residents with up to $1,000 in rebates if they choose to remove their grass and install a less water intensive material in their front yard or in their backyard. So definitely one bill to be following because it's an additional way for us to expand that program as well as continue to conserve water, especially when we are experiencing a severe drought. Secondly, an update on some of the Excel work that I've been sharing with you all over the last couple of months. So first, you may remember that I talked a couple of months ago about Excel's transportation electrification plan. And a big thank you to Councilmember Duran Mollica, who was able to provide testimony to the Colorado Public Utilities Commission in support of their plan, as well as thanks to those of you that signed on to a letter. The plan was approved by the Public Utilities Commission, and Xcel will be investing $110 million over the next 3 years, which will result in almost 1 million electric vehicles on the road in the next 10 years. And it will also include installation of close to 20,000 high-speed charging stations, which is really exciting. And this is particularly important for Northglenn because, as you all know, I-25 cuts through our city, and implementing this plan will greatly help to reduce transportation-related pollution and improve our air quality, which is good news for everyone. The other piece around Xcel is that they're going to be submitting their energy resource plan later this spring. And I'll be bringing forward opportunities to all of you to review the plan as well as potentially get involved. And this is important to our community because this plan in the process represents another opportunity for us to push to continue to expand clean energy. And so again, opportunities to clean up our air quality are going to be an option there too. So just wanted to highlight those two things. And then on a personal note, I wanted to share that my husband, Matt, and I are expecting our second child earlier in the spring, and are pretty excited about that. So just wanted to let you all know what was going on with us. And thank you so much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Well, congratulations. That's awesome news. How fun. Okay, so we'll continue sort of going backwards. Councilmember Escobar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I only have one thing, and that's our board meeting that Mayor Pro Tem Wilford and I will be having on Thursday, January the 14th, from 6 to 7 p.m. It was in the connection. So for those of you out there, you can see the time, the ID number, the telephone number to call in. Also, all Ward 4 residents received a mail card from the city. So we look forward to hearing your concerns in Ward 4 and particularly interested in the marijuana delivery. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple of things. One is I have met with a couple of members of the Anythink Library from the Huron branch as part of the homelessness task force. We were hoping to work with the library branch to get some resources out to patrons of the library to have some information available to patrons and possibly, I guess, people experiencing homelessness that library would have available for them once they open, which there is hopeful planning that they may be able to open sometime in February. So we just discussed, did some brainstorming, and just kind of got things, got the ball rolling, I guess. So there'll be more coming as we develop more solid plans. And then the other thing was that our legislative policy group met before this evening before the city council meeting, and we got a report that the Colorado legislature will be starting up Wednesday for 3 days. They will likely not introduce any new bills. They're mostly cleaning up from last session, and they are planning that the hope is that our state legislators will get COVID vaccines, I guess both of them, and then they're going to reconvene in mid-February so that everybody will be covered by then, and they don't have to worry as much about the social distancing problems. The Joint Budget Committee and other standing committees are scheduled to meet in the interim, but they probably won't meet next week due to security threats around Inauguration Day. So nobody really knows for sure at this point what's going to be happening next week at the state capitol. Let's see what else. Coming up in this year's legislation session, Faith Winter, our very own Faith Winter, is sponsoring a major transportation bill that will change how transportation is funded in the state and will help support clean transportation. Let's see. And then another thing that's likely to come up is that a variety of different groups are already talking about modifying the Police Integrity Act that was passed last year. So some of that's likely to come up in this coming session. Let's see, there were just some different things that different groups are going to have talked about. So we don't know for sure what exactly will come up or if anything at all will be modified, but that is in the air. The other item that was discussed was that the RTD Accountability Board's initial preliminary report is recommending some legislation for the coming session. And these pieces are all things that it has recommended in the past. And one example was, and I'm trying to put it in words that I understood because I don't know all the technical lingo. So Councilmember Mullica can chime in if I'm getting it wrong. But right now there are some restrictions on how that a certain percentage of any line has to be funded by the actual amount of money that line is getting from fares, like how much money people are putting in the box, so to speak, as they get on the bus or the train. And so that has been a constraint on keeping certain lines running if they're not highly used by a large number of people, but maybe they're important to those certain people. So it's constrained and limited RTD. They might have had to cut lines that they really didn't want to because this requirement has been in place that they have to, the line has to be funded by a certain number of fares or a certain amount of money from fares. So this has come up before and it's likely to come up again that they could remove that restriction, and then it would give RTD a little more freedom on how they can keep certain lines open or shift some funding around to keep lines open. So that was one of the ones that might be coming up. And maybe, Julie, you can nod. Did I get that right? Was I close? So anyway, those are maybe some of the big items that might be coming up. And I guess that was probably about it. We decided we probably wouldn't meet again as a group until the beginning of February because there won't be anything really happening until after our legislators reconvene. So you won't be getting a report from us for quite a while. And that was it. That's all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Duran-Mullica.
Awesome. Great job, Catherine. I know I said it a little fast. It was a lot in that legislative committee meeting. So yeah, essentially I've been busy with transportation legislation. A lot of people are talking about the huge bill and changes that Senator Faith Winter is going to be bringing to the legislature this year. And so everybody is trying to weigh in and to give their opinion. And so that's what I feel like I've been doing mostly the past couple of weeks is just drafting letters and, things like that of this is where we think the money should go. There is also a lot of legislative conversation at the RTD Accountability Committee. So everyone's just gearing up for the session, which, is going to be interesting as it starts and then comes back later. So I think everyone's just excited to have the little extra time to lobby their bills and their perspectives. So I'm looking forward to that. Other than that, the only thing that came up last week was the Tri-County elected officials meeting. That was an interesting layout. They tried to do it virtually. They have it every single year. They did it virtually this year. The breakout rooms was kind of a mess, but essentially, I got updates on the Colorado Air Quality Project, food access, and mental health, especially with some of the information we're getting for last year with the shutdowns and things like that. I'm surprising to see that, you know, our mental health numbers, I mean, aren't through the roof as so many people would have expected, but we still have major concerns, especially with suicide in our community and those younger folks who are still suffering. So that was a great update to get. And then that's about it. No other updates. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Downing.
Thank you. I forgot that we were going backwards. I just have a couple things, something exciting from the Historic Commission. I did participate in the kickoff conference call with the state and staff and our consultant, and we are starting the process for the survey for DESA estates. So that's really exciting for us. It's due to be completed in July. So we're going to be working with the communications department to get the word out to the community. And maybe, Jenny, with your ward meetings and that type of thing, you can mention that we're going to start that work. So it's really exciting. And we'll see what happens with that, so it's really good. The other thing is just a reminder that if you're interested in purchasing a brick over at the Northglenn Memorial Plaza, the deadline is January 31st. And you can either donate or purchase a brick online, or you can call the Community Foundation. So I wanted to make sure that everyone had that update because it's coming pretty quickly if you want to purchase a brick. Thank you.
So Councilmember Downing, or maybe it's more of a question for City Manager Geyer, has that information about the brick sales, how many places do we have that? Is that worthy of another Facebook push or something?
It's, I know that it's on our website, so, and through the Community Foundation. So maybe Heather has more information with that.
I don't know the number of spots off the top of my head. I'm hoping Amanda might.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It has been in the connection for the last 2 months, and the communications team has been doing a social media push over the last couple of months as well. So they've had a series of posts there. Staff have also reached out to several veterans organizations individually to encourage distribution of the information. And then each of the bags that were provided with the Veterans Day signs also received a copy of the flyer back in November.
That was a good idea.
Yep. Also, I would just add, I saw it on Facebook today. I think it was put out by the Senior Center, the Senior Group Facebook page.
Good.
That's awesome. Okay. Thanks. Councilmember Brown?
Hi, first off, I'd like to congratulate Mayor Pro Tem on her newest little bundle of joy coming her way. She should probably start sleeping right now. I had the Youth Commission last week. We didn't have a quorum, so we had some really great conversations. I continue to be amazed by them. They're a great group of kids. So that's what I had last week. I wanted to ask a question when John was on the call. The Rotary Club and the food drives and everything is like that has always been such a big competition. Will we have time to put something out there so that the residents are aware that this is all virtual this time?
I don't know. Heather, do you want to take that?
Sure. Let me say my sense is probably so. So let me get with Debbie and we'll get some thoughts together and then reach back out to council and let you know what the game plan is. Because John did overlook the fact that we did beat Thornton last year. So probably a reason why he didn't mention that, but I'm sure we can figure out how to add some fun to it this year. So I'll touch base with Debbie and we'll figure it out.
You know how competitive I am for that. I just wanted to express my sympathy for the house fire that the North Metro Fire Department posted for our resident. It's always so sad when something like that happens, but I would like to express my sympathy to the family. And I think that's all I have today.
Thank you. Councilmember Witkovich?
Nothing for me. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Peterson?
Thank you, Mayor. Along with others, I attended the Legislative Policy Committee meeting tonight. I want to thank Northglenn law enforcement for making this month, January, Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And we didn't have a discussion on that, but I think it's such an important thing to be aware of and to look for the signs amongst people we know and in our youth and in our community. And I want to thank the Northglenn Police Department for bringing that to our attention, that January is, of course, Human Trafficking Prevention Month. I was also very, very privileged on the night of December 22nd to attend the swearing in for 4 brand new officers who have committed their careers and, in fact, in many ways, their lives to the residents of Northglenn. And the swearing in ceremony was absolutely amazing. And I want to congratulate and thank the 4 new officers on the Northglenn force. Officers Porta, Lohmeyer, Carrasco, and Alari. And all these officers are going to make great additions. I wish you could have heard what they said and seen them with their families and their commitment to public service and their commitment to good policing. It was very, very affirmative, and it was uplifting, and it was worthy of being recognized. So I want to thank the 4 of you, to the Northglenn community and the Northglenn family, and I know you will do a phenomenal job. So that's what I have. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Yes, I also had the pleasure of meeting those new officers, and they're lovely. So welcome aboard. Okay, I have just a couple of things. Metro Mayor's Caucus met, and we had a discussion with the governor on Thursday. A lot of it was about vaccines and about tests, that additional tests that are coming that will be available to school sites. And the hot topic was the dial change back to orange. It was an interesting conversation. I see someone shaking their head. Yes, it was an interesting conversation. We pushed as a unit, as a group of mayors, for increased communication a little bit. And I was hoping to advocate for some prioritization of vaccines with our city staff. I didn't get much ground with the governor's office, and so I raised that question again with Tri-County Health during our weekly meeting. The vaccine distribution has been, it's awesome. It's an amazing thing. It's just, everyone wants to be first. And there's always reasons that someone wants to advocate for being over someone else. So it just adds to the discussion. Most interestingly, I think, was the meeting that Chief and I had with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and it was a discussion of mayors from around the country and police chiefs, and it was on the 7th, so it was the day after the horrific events at our nation's capital. And so it was, I'm only sharing that we attended the meeting so that you know that it took place. It was very interesting. There was a lot of information. But there was a collective, a lot of feelings. There was some grieving. There was some frustration. There was a lot of anger. It was, an interesting group to spend time with the day after. And I felt very privileged to be there. The Chief and I both got a lot of information. A lot of it was not necessarily worthy of sharing publicly in tonight's meeting, but I just wanted you to know that we attended. Most recently today, I recorded a new Mayor's Monthly Minute, and it does touch on that topic. And I just wanted to sort of express that it was really hard to do. So I'm sure there's critics. I'm sure I said too much or said too little. It was, 2 minutes. However, I didn't want to not address it and pretend like it didn't happen, because it did happen. It was a huge event. It was absolutely tragic. I have been sad and frustrated and heartbroken. But through that, and this is what I share in my video, my own exploration and my own searching for information taught me a lot. And it also was a great learning opportunity for my teenagers because they are consuming information from the internet so many hours per day. And a lot of it's not accurate. And so it changes the conversation. And so the learning and the teaching I was doing at home about, reputable sources and finding a balanced perspective and some of these pieces that are really crucial for kids, I sort of came to a place where I felt like they were good reminders for everybody because I found myself consuming information that was false and getting pretty upset about it. And then realizing, oh, that didn't even happen. That's not even true. And so, needing to take a step back. And so that's sort of a little bit of the theme of the mayor's message this month, but acknowledging that was absolutely tragic. And I think other people have mentioned this already tonight, is that kindness is a big deal and it's not an easy thing to do. It's not a bumper sticker. Just be kind. It takes intentionality and focus, and it takes courage. And so I was, that encouragement to just be kind to others. But I also wanted to celebrate that our residents do it best. They take care of each other. They look out for their neighbors, and they're really kind. So that was kind of, I guess you don't have to watch my video now. I sort of summarized it for you, but I just wanted to mention that tonight, that it's not something we can sweep away. And I was so moved by the proclamation tonight because it tied in very well with how our nation's feeling right now. And I so appreciate the DICE board for being here tonight. Councilmember Brown.
On that same subject, Meredith, I have a question, and I'm not sure if this is the right time, but I'm not sure that I'll get any other time. As the information comes out from the FBI and the CIA that the state capitals are targeted, will we be doing anything for our city buildings just in case, or because it's a state capital threat, do we not do anything? I'm just unsure of how that works.
I think that's a question for our city manager.
Chief, are you listening to this conversation? Do you want to put yourself on video? The simple answer is yes, we're monitoring through the intelligence resources that we have, and Chief can speak more to that. So at this point, not in a position to share specific things or steps that we would be taking, in addition to the fact that I'll communicate with council as appropriate based on information that we have. But Chief, can you talk generally for the public's benefit about the steps that you and your commanders take in terms of where you get information and then what we do with it?
So actually, we're in, Colorado Information Group. What they do is they monitor some of those hate groups and everything else. So they monitor websites. So if there's anything that pops up, they keep us in the know on that. So they'll give us some information if they come across something that may be occurring in Denver or Aurora, or even our city. One of the things that we have for our officers, put an extra patrol, especially after that event at the our Capitol, beefing up some of our extra patrol at some of our city facilities and water treatment plant and everything, just so that we're visible and we're making sure that we're taking care of our buildings. But again, if we hear anything, we'll also have our detectives that will be assigned to those websites to monitor if there's anything happening. So we'll keep you posted. So far, we haven't heard anything. The only thing that we did hear, I talked to a Denver commander in regards to our state capitol and Denver PD's assisting CSP. We said we can assist with traffic control if they need to. Currently, Denver has an issue, for any assistance, those departments need to have body cameras. So we really can't help them on any riot control or anything else, but we could possibly help them with traffic enforcement if something happens at our state capitol. But again, all metro-wide, all the police chiefs are communicating, working together to make sure that our communities are safe.
Thank you, Chief. Meredith, I had one more thing I forgot to mention on a different subject. Just kind of an FYI, we made a decision around Christmas time that we were going to, as a family, we were going to help people. So we would pick people out, from either next door or Northglenn Cares. And I spent time dropping off gifts for people that, I had that they could use, food for people, things like that. And I just wanted to let everybody know that, and it was from ward to ward. It was not just in Ward 2. I just wanted to let everybody know that Colorado Unemployment has revamped their website. So anybody who's on unemployment for the pandemic, which was something they tagged on to unemployment, their payments are going to be delayed. So just, be aware that we may have a larger amount of people who need food. Make sure that we're checking with our resident, our neighbors, make sure that they have what they need to make it through. I think from what I could tell in the article I read today, at least 2 to 3 weeks delay. So that could really affect some people. I worked a lot with Jessica to get people help. And I just wanted to let you know, I never heard anything but wonderful words about her. And she helped every resident that I sent her way. So Heather, I would just like to thank you for giving us a resource who the people really trust. Our residents really trust her. My comment at this point, Meredith, was just to remind people that some people are really going to suffer in this next 3 weeks while they're waiting for their unemployment checks to start kicking in again. So that's all I wanted to say. Keep your eyes open.
Thank you. I appreciate you raising that again. Okay, continuing with communication, City Manager Geyer.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 3 items this evening to share with Council. Rupa will do the third, and that'll be on COVID-19 and where we're at with vaccines. So the first is a kudos to our public works staff. We had a water main break on New Year's Eve. We don't know when these are going to happen. They happen. And it was an all hands on deck approach. And certainly I was taking some time off for the holidays and really appreciate staff and the teamwork that transpired. Kent Kisselman, staff from Utility Streets Engineering, and certainly our emergency contractor. 70 homes were impacted by this water main break. And so one of the larger ones that we've had, water went off just before 5 a.m. New Year's Eve morning, but we were able to get it back and running by later in the day, I think around 4 p.m. So thank you to public works staff, as I mentioned, and also a kudos to Diana and her staff on the communications team for their work on what was scheduled to be a day off. And also a plug for CCPP applications. They are due on Friday, January 15th. That is this week. We've received 34 applications so far. Interviews, Rupa is working diligently to get those scheduled with council. They'll take place January 25th through February 5th. So please respond to Rupa if you haven't already. I believe she sent an email late last week looking to get some times on schedule so that way we can keep the process moving forward with anticipation of council making appointments to that new board on February 22nd. So right now we have 4 applicants in Ward 1, 7 in Ward 2, 5 in Ward 3, 13 in Ward 4, 1 youth at large, and then 4 service providers that have shown interest. So if you are considering it, please do submit your application, reach out to Rupa with any questions. And then with that, I'll turn it over to Rupa, who's going to share information about vaccines. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm glad to be having this conversation where we're finally talking about vaccines much sooner than anyone anticipated. So I appreciate this. And I just have one slide tonight. And the slide is from the state, from CDPHE, which shows the different phases. And right now, Colorado as a whole, it's kind of hard to see that, but we're in phase 1A and phase 1B. So a quick update from Tri-County Health Department for individuals that are 70 and older. So what they are advising is that you should contact your healthcare provider or affiliated healthcare systems by mid to late January of 2021. So Tri-County Health Department is anticipating that vaccines will become more available during that time. So again, that's mid to late January 2021. And as providers start receiving vaccines and availability becomes more widespread, individuals that are 70 and older should be contacted directly by their healthcare providers. But for those that are not affiliated with the healthcare system or they haven't been contacted by mid to late January, to contact a vaccine provider that's listed on the state website. And there's a link to that on Tri-County's Health Department. In addition, vaccines are free, so nobody should be charged for receiving a vaccine. The other information that I want to share is Tri-County Health Department is not offering community testing right now, and that is because vaccines are not widely available. But they do anticipate that pharmacies should be able to start vaccinating the 70 and older population soon. And so once they have that information, again, it will be on the Tri-County Health Department website. The other bit of information, so for our employees, currently SCL Health is offering vaccines to only our police department and code enforcement. And that's due to the state guidelines on who is eligible under phase 1B. And I know that some of you may have heard that other municipalities, particularly the water and wastewater treatment plant operators, did receive vaccines. The reason that Tri-County Health Department gave as to why some hospitals were giving out those vaccines is because when Governor Polis added frontline essential workers to phase 1B, some hospitals went ahead and offered those vaccines before the current guidelines came out. So under current guidelines, again, our employees that are eligible are just police department and code enforcement. But as Mayor Leidy has said, she's advocated for certain employees to be added to that list, and we have as well. But right now, we are where we are. In addition, some residents may have heard that Thornton is offering vaccines to their population that's 70 and older. So it's the Thornton Fire Department that is able to administer those vaccines as they have the medical training for that. And so they're offering those vaccines to their residents that are in that population. And right now, obviously the city, we don't have staff that can administer those vaccines. And Tri-County Health Department, as I said, is not administering those vaccines right now either due to availability. So with that, if anybody has any questions, or Heather, if I miss anything, I'll be happy to take them.
I think the only other thing that I would add is, so as Rupa mentioned, police officers who have chosen to receive the vaccine have been vaccinated. I think pretty much everybody that decided they were have gone through. We may have a few more, but based under law, as an employer, we cannot require an employee to receive the vaccine. So we've done a great job through Human Resources and the police department to communicate to employees. We'll do the same thing once the vaccine's more widely available to other employees. But just a note on that. So I don't have specific numbers for you as to how many of our police officers have received the vaccine or not, because the way the vaccines are being distributed through SCL Health, I'm not in a position to say X number or whatnot. So happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Councilmember Goff?
And I'm not sure, who can answer this question. I know this whole vaccine rollout is a little chaotic to say the least. And it's just because we don't have a central, government coordinating things. I mean, I'm not trying to blame anybody, but I have heard of instances where, a hospital or a site that's giving the shots, the vaccinations, the vaccines, towards the end of the time, their scheduled time, they have like maybe 3 doses left or something. And so they're just looking for somebody to give them to rather than throw them away or just, so they won't get wasted. And that different sites have different methods of giving, doing something with those like leftover vaccines. Is there any like county or statewide, or is there anybody giving guidelines on how to distribute those last couple or 3 or whatever half dozen doses at the end of the shift, or I don't know. I've just heard a lot of different rumors. I've heard, I've known people who've said that they've gone in and gotten one, and just because they were there at the right time, or somebody told them that they could go there and get it. Do you know anything about that? Is there any sort of method or coordinated effort or guidelines or anything? Can you say anything about that? And sure. Julie's like shaking her head and laughing. So I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I can take a shot at it. So I don't know what the specific guidelines are, but I will say that the police department was able to receive vaccines sooner than anticipated because SCL Health, they realized that they're going to have extra vaccines left. So they reached out to Tri-County Health Department, who then reached out to Chief May to let him know, hey, SCL Health is ready to move into phase 1B. And so phase 1B includes first responders. So they were able to use their extra doses to move on to a different phase. So I don't know if that helps answer that question, but I know at least from our experience with the police department, SCL Health, that's how we were able to get vaccinated for that department sooner than anticipated, because they realized they did have extra vaccines, and they coordinated with Tri-County Health Department for that.
So it kind of sounds like each hospital or site that's distributing them kind of, maybe goes to the county to try to figure out what to do. So maybe if they're curious or they are hoping, or it might be you go to like Tri-County Health in our case to see if there's some way to get on a list or try to figure out if there's an opportunity for that. But otherwise, we don't really know.
Yeah, I would suggest people look at the different phases to see where they fall in that. So Tri-County Health Department, from my understanding, they seem to be coordinating the extra doses and the extra vaccines, but how they determine who's next to receive one is based on those phases.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I had a thought and I just lost it. I think it was because it was along the same lines as Catherine's question. There was some discussion about the creativity. So between the add the purple to the dial to move us to the orange to the dial to now we've added a dotted line to 1B instead of just call it 1C. I don't know. We're just going to add a dotted line to that way. So you're either above the line or below the line. Like some of this is just starting to get funny, but okay. Any other pieces to that? I feel like just because you have information, Councilmember Malika, you don't want to add anything. No opinions or thoughts?
No opinions.
Okay.
No opinions. I don't know how to add to the madness, to be honest with you. And I can't make sense of it. And I can't help you make sense of it either. I'm sorry.
Just checking. All right. City Clerk Small, do you have anything for us tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I do not have anything tonight. Thank you.
Okay. City Attorney Hoffman, how about you?
Good evening. I do not have anything this evening either.
You have plenty for us later. I had a quick reminder that I thought about, I think, while Heather was speaking, which is have you submitted your video to Kylin? That was a request from all of us, and that's due tomorrow. So go back into your email, take a peek, see if you can find it. I know my email is filled with stuff, and I stumbled upon it today and was horrified. So I sent them really quickly. But she was requesting those by tomorrow. Okay. All right. We are moving into the financial support. Our Director of Finance, Jason Loveland, is here, and I will pull up your presentation. Jason, welcome. Hello. Do you want me to pull up all this stuff? Do you want me to screen share it or no?
Yeah, if you have it.
I do. It's just extremely small print, so I wasn't sure. It says to start on page 6. So this one's the financial report. It's not a presentation. Is that correct? I just want to make sure I have the right document.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So I'm going to start on page 6. I'm going to try to zoom because it's very small. All right, you have the floor.
Great. So if you go back up to page 2 of this document, I'll start with the general fund. So good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy New Year. We'll go back in time to November for the financial report. I'll start off with the general fund, but more specifically within that general fund, our sales and use tax updates, like we do every month. Sales and use tax is down 5.8% through November. So those are through October sales that are collected in November. Big components of that, sales tax specifically is down 4%. Auto use tax, another big tax driver for the city, is down 13%. And then on the positive side, food tax and marijuana sales continue to thrive through October, and those are both up around 12%. So that's offsetting some of the losses in sales tax. So we had talked about the impact after, I guess, October of going back down to going back to the red on the dial and closing or restricting businesses to operate. And so we do have November numbers that we got last week before we put this or just after we put the presentation together. And November was down 7.5% from the prior November. So that goes back to May and June revenue collections on sales tax for 2020. So obviously, the greater the restrictions, that does have an impact on businesses and sales. And so we did see that for November, which we'll report on in a few weeks. So I just wanted to give an update on that we did definitely see a pretty big impact for the November sales tax. In the general fund itself, you'll see revenues down just 1.85%. Part of that reasoning is because we have the CARES Act grant revenues in that intergovernmental revenue line item partway through down the page, and that shows that we're up 34%. If we strip away the CARES Act grant, that line item is actually down 20%, and then overall general fund revenues are down 6.5%. specific to this report, when we're comparing year over year, it kind of blurs a few lines there when you account for the unexpected grant revenue. So I just wanted to point that out. If we go to the next page and touch on general fund expenditures, kind of the same thing here. The legislative line item at the top for the departmental budget shows that it's up 28%. It's actually down 14%. We have CARES Act money allocated to that legislative department. And then towards the bottom, the other financing uses is at $5 million. $1 million of that is CARES Act related. So overall, though, when we take a look deeper into some of the spending, when we remove the CARES Act, we're in line with our budget, as well as the reduced spending that we committed to on operational items in the general fund. So we'll report more on that when we finalize year-end reporting. But all indications from what we can see here in kind of the middle column of spending rate, we're 92% of the way through the year, and you'll see we're far away from spending all that was budgeted for in 2020. One group, planning and development, they're kind of past the 92%. That's largely due to the technical services provided by Safe Built and the portions that they collect revenue from doing building review and plan reviews. So we see offsetting increases in revenue while that expenditure goes up due to activity. And that's really the only spending to point out there. If we go to the next slide, we'll talk about the water fund. Here again, consumption month over month. We've touched on this repeatedly. Consumption is up 8.1%, which is driving the water charges revenue to be up by 15%. There was a rate increase in addition to the consumption level being up 8%. Spending within this fund and all funds, we're seeing some savings. You'll see capital outlay is just a function of timing on the project's speed at which we're moving on those. So on the next slide, on the wastewater fund, again, a rate increase driving increased revenues for wastewater charges. And then contributions, that's related to the Bunker Hill Lift Station and the developer contributions that we're receiving for that project. And then on the next slide, or next page, I guess, stormwater fund, again, no rate changes, revenues are steady, as well as the investments in operating that fund. And then on the last slide on sanitation, revenues, again, flat, and capital expenditures, investments in new collection vehicles are included there. And then the operations are in line with the budget. If you go to, I think it's page 10 or 11, kind of the summary of, so one more. The tax by geographic code area. So these are specific to the collections over the last 3 years. You'll see the majority of the city's geographic areas are down. And then in total, sales are down about just under 7% through this month. And again, we're seeing some rebound in assistance, I guess, in our total sales tax being down from online sales through the .coms and Amazons and whatnot. So that has been a little bit of help economically for the city. And then that is all I had, and I can answer any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions? Councilmember Duran-Malika?
Yeah, I think I have a question. So, and this one actually might be for Heather, but I just want to try and get an idea. So last year, starting in the pandemic, we talked about decreasing, our spending by 15% by department. And I had a quick question: were those cuts something that we're going to continue for 2021, or how is that plan kind of transitioning? Because I mean, we're still kind of in a pandemic, so I don't know. I was just kind of curious how the 2020 work is transferring over to 2021, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. Great question. I'll start off and then Jason jump in. So in terms of the overall departmental budget reductions, we did carry some of those forward in the sense of asking departments to tie that into budget 2021 and to be very conservative in terms of budget development. We have also continued to keep certain positions frozen. I just looked at the list late last week, so I'm not going to remember the number of positions off the top of my head. It's something like 12 plus positions that I want to say we currently have frozen, but there's certain essential positions that we've continued to move forward with the hiring process on. And then as you recall I want to say it was probably late November prior to Thanksgiving, I informed council that we were going to hold off on providing merit increases until I'll make a decision by the end of March after we really get through this period of seeing what the true impact to sales and use tax looks like based on that third surge that we saw of COVID at the end of last year. Jason, would you add anything additional to that we've done? There's been a lot.
No, I don't think so. I think that covered that.
Okay. Is there any way to maybe just get a summary of what those reductions are going to be carried forward? I'm just kind of curious about, what services did we used to provide that we kind of held back on, and now, we're going to hold off for a little bit. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, because we are, obviously still in a pandemic, but I think I just wanted to get a better sense of, how has our service level changed over the past year? And then what does it look like to eventually get those services back to our residents, when the time comes, if it comes this year. And so I think that's what I was just trying to get a little bit of a better handle on. And then I don't know if there's an answer to this question, but Jason, you were saying that, right now we're, without the CARES Fund money, we would have been down 20% in our revenue. Is that the right way I said it?
That was specifically to the charges for services line item.
Okay. Okay.
And then, so without the CARES money, we would be down 6.5%.
6.5%. Okay. And again, what I was just trying to figure out in my head and get my arms around is, are there certain departments or areas that were harder hit than others, and how were their services or their personnel impacted by, these numbers? And so if there's any information that you guys have, or maybe even just a summary, and maybe this could be an offline conversation, but I just kind of wanted to get a little bit of a better understanding about those impacts.
Sure, that's something that certainly can provide. I think for the public's benefit, one of the things that's important to know, and for council's benefit as well, is staff has really worked hard not to have impacts hit residents in terms of level of service. And so in terms of the reductions, freezing a position is one approach we've taken, or we've frozen multiple positions, but still tried to achieve that same level of service, to provide that same level of service, which just means a translation of fewer people doing more. And so some of that's going to be a little bit hard to quantify just in hard budget numbers beyond the savings that we've recognized through, say, a vacant position. But Jason and I can talk and try to put something together to help demonstrate that visually.
Okay, thank you. I would appreciate it.
Any other questions for Jason? Oh, Councilmember Goff?
Yeah, I'm just going to tag on to what Councilmember Mullica was saying, is that those even if I hear what you're saying about the level of service maybe not being impacted to our residents, but I'm sure those staff members who are taking on extra work are impacted. And so if there was just some way, you probably are keeping track of it, but I would really like to have some sense of who, like how many people or who those people are, so that when we start getting, back onto closer to regular sources of revenue, that those people can get, some relief in some way. However, we're going to, whatever your plan is, either hiring more staff or whatever it is, they get an extra day off, or they get, some extra pay or a bonus or whatever it is. But because, we probably don't say it enough, but we really do appreciate the hard work that the staff has been doing during this past year, I guess it's been a year so far, or maybe not quite a year, but it's been really hard. And I know people are really stressed out. And I just, please hang in there, folks. You are appreciated, even if we don't say it often enough. And, we are hoping that we can all pull through this together, and we thank you so much. And I hope that word gets out to everybody.
Thank you. All right. Any final thoughts, Jason, or are you good?
No, we're good, and we can pull some things together to share.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We're moving into the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yes.
Councilmember Witkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Downing?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Goff?
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Malika?
Yes.
Councilmember Escabel?
Yes.
I will close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right. We have one ordinance tonight on first reading, CB 1965. Joanna, will you read the title?
A bill for an ordinance amending section 7-1-6, subsection T of the Northglenn Municipal Code, amending the Model Traffic Code 2020 edition as previously adopted by reference by the city.
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. We have our Police Chief, Jim May, to provide a summary. Hello.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Actually, you guys approved the 2020 edition back in July of 2020. What we found out is that we made a mistake. We ended up deleting 1702, which is the county state penalties and surcharges. So we want to make sure that we reinstate 1702. But the other section that we want to delete is 1701. And this contains mandatory state penalties and surcharges because our municipality, we set our own penalties and surcharges. And then the municipal judge assesses those penalties based on the circumstances of the case. So we just want to make sure that we put that, delete that one out so we can just make it official using our penalties and surcharges.
Okay, any questions or discussion for Chief? Okay, seeing none, thank you for being here. Joanna, will you call the vote, please?
Mayor Leidy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yes.
Councilmember Whitkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson? Councilmember Peterson?
He's dark. He may have stepped away. There he is.
Oh, there he is.
Small bladder. Yes.
Councilmember Downing?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Goff?
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Malika?
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar?
Yes.
I will close that vote, and CB 1965 on first reading passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving into public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment. Statements are limited to 3 minutes per speaker and must be related to an item previously discussed tonight by council. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak to council at this time? You may press *6 to unmute yourself. Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Section 4.5G of the City of Northglenn Home Rule Charter for negotiations regarding a potential agreement with Denver North Lodging, LLC.
Motion.
Second.
Joanna, please call the vote.
Mayor Leidy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Wilford?
Yes.
Councilmember Councilmember Whitkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Councilmember Downing?
Yes.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Goff?
Yes.
Councilmember Duran Malika?
Yes.
Councilmember Escobar?
Yes.
I will close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
Thank you. We are adjourned to executive session. How about if we all take